today. We've identified a lot of the barriers and a lot of the issues, and we've had a great presentation just recently about some ways to break down barriers to reach youth in our audience. But how do we expand diversity in our public lands? So we have a great opportunity here with this panel, and I want to introduce them quickly. Angelou Ezeilo is the founder and CEO of the Greening Youth Foundation. Under her leadership, the foundation has taken up the charge of providing environmental access to underserved children and young adults through its public school initiative and youth conservation corps programs. Prior to the Greening Youth Foundation, Angelou began her environmental career as a legal specialist for the New Jersey State Agriculture and Development Committee as project manager for the Trust for Public Land in both New Jersey and Georgia. Angelou acquired land for preservation, worked on the New York, New Jersey Highlands program, Parks for People Newark, the New York, New Jersey Harbor program in New Jersey, the Atlanta Beltline, and the 20-county Regional Green Space Initiative in Georgia. Angelou is a graduate of Spelman College, Georgia. She received her J.D. in law from the University of Florida College of Law. She is a member of the National Center for Civil and Human Rights, Women in Solidarity Society, and South Fork Conservancy Boards. Advisory board member for the Arabia Mountain National Heritage Area, the Million Mile Greenway Incorporated, Keeping It Wild Incorporated, Outdoor Afro, and subcommittee member of the National Park Service's 21st Century Conservation Corps. So we're looking forward to your presentation here in just a moment. I'm going to kick off the presentations with Angelou Ezeilo.
Thank you, Dan. I gotta put my glasses on now. I'm getting older. I just wanted to first start off by saying good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Great. Awesome. I wanted to thank Derek and our fellow panelists, as well as the federal agency partners in the audience and colleagues, just for inviting Greening Youth Foundation to this really important conversation. So I'm very excited for the outcomes, and I know what will be very interesting exchanges. So just a little bit of who I am. I think Dan shared some of it, but I feel like I've had 3 careers. So lawyer, land conservationist, as well as this nonprofit leader now. I've always had a connection to the environment and this love for nature. When I was growing up, my parents, I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, but my parents had a 54-acre farm in upstate New York. So although Jersey is like this concrete jungle, I was able to escape every summer. And it was just kind of foresight on their part, not super wealthy people at all, but just kind of understood, really forward-thinking parents that the kids needed to have this place to escape to. So I have that connection, which I can kind of trace back now, especially in retrospect, as to why I do the work that I do. Because at a young age, there was that connection to the environment, to nature. Now, fast forward, I have this, environmental nonprofit, and I start thinking, as I do this work, what is it that, what's going on as it relates to Black people and the environment? And now when I say this, I certainly do not mean that I'm talking for all people of color, all Black people. I'm sorry, Dan? Oh, it needs service, okay. Sorry, guys. Do I have to do that every time? Okay. So really started exploring the issue of why don't people of color want to be outdoors. And really, this came about because we were doing these different programs and getting these opportunities for these young folks, particularly African Americans, and things started coming about, like the numbers that we were getting in response to some of the opportunities that were out there just weren't where we thought they should be. So we really started researching the issue, and before I get into GYF and Greening Youth Foundation, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the negative perceptions as it relates to the outdoors in African American communities. I feel like I should be able to do this easier. All right. So one of the reasons, if you guys can see this, believe it or not, is just pure fear of the outdoors. So every single movie that's out there, we talk about the millennials or what have you, even Generation X and Y, have had the Jasons and the Friday the 13th, and all of those horror scenes happen in the woods, in the forests, in these places where people are running, and ultimately someone always dies out there. So we have to deal with that. That's one negative perception. And then the other is there's stories that are passed down from our ancestors and generations of, family members in Africa going out into the woods, the jungles, what have you, to get food and just not coming back because they were captured by slaves. By slave captures. Those stories were passed down from generation to generation. So in a lot of cases, you have grandparents saying, don't go out in those woods. So it's a deep-seated reason why that comfort level isn't there. And same with the 1950s with Jim Crow, and a lot of the hangings happen in the woods. So there's a lot of negative stuff to combat. And then the other thing, looking at 34 to really 45-year-olds, just started really, because that's my age bracket, going in and specifically trying to understand why African-American professional women were not doing as many, and most of them with children, not doing a lot of outdoor things with their families, not taking them on to these national parks, to these trips. And believe it or not, a lot of the reasons that I found was hair. That, hair was an issue of being outdoors because as Carlos said, I guess similar to the Latino community, roughing it isn't exactly something that these women wanted to do. It wasn't something that they viewed as fun or ideal. The other thing is, I have a little video here. Oh, I just wanted to show you this. So clearly, there are a lot of activities that African American women avoid because they don't want, there's hair issues involved. So I'm just giving you all the raw data and things that I've discovered. And then the other thing is bugs. Bugs were really a major, believe it or not, factor in stopping a lot of African American women from wanting to be outdoors. So, having heard all of that, what we do, and like I said at the onset, it's not one size fits all. As Carlos said, and I keep referencing him because his presentation was just so poignant and really spoke to so many issues that affect our community. You really have to customize this material, and we're starting in a deficit, so to speak. And there's a group of a segment of our community that still has all these negative perceptions of the outdoors. So we really do have to work to collectively reshape the viewing of outdoors and what it means to enjoy the outdoors. Just like when you all go outdoors and go to different parks, not everybody enjoys the parks the same way. Some people want to kayak, and other people want to do paddle boating or canoeing. So we have to start really seeing it as something that we have to look at a little more differently and customize it for the audience that we're trying to reach. So that's exactly what we're, and I won't take very long because I did provide it on a thumb drive. But that's basically what we're doing at Green and Youth Foundation. So Green and Youth Foundation is an environmental nonprofit, and we're also a youth corps. And what we do there is really demystify the outdoors, reconnect people to the outdoors, but really nurturing a relationship amongst underserved youth and young adults with the outdoors while exposing them to careers in conservation. So we have two ways in which we do that. we have two programs. We have an environmental and wellness program that we bring to students K through 12, and this hands-on experiential learning we bring to public schools, boys and girls clubs, rec centers throughout Atlanta, and we also even have a program in Accra, West Africa, and Ghana. The other program that we have that really is very relevant to you all here today is our Youth Conservation Corps. So through our Youth Conservation Corps, we really engage 17 to 25-year-olds. We provide them with paid internship and service crew opportunities to work on, and you don't have to worry about reading this, I'm sorry, it's much longer than it needs to be. We pay them to work on federal lands. So these are some of the programs that we have that we do in high schools throughout Metro Atlanta, and some of the successful programs that we've had. This is our Ghana program, in which we partner with NYU, and we train and certify their interns to implement our program at public schools in Accra. So our YCC, which is what I was speaking of, is a wonderful pathway program, because I think we're the only African-American-led youth corps that has a cooperative agreement with the National Park Service. So we're able to, and we also have a master agreement with the Forest Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife as well. So we provide paid internships, and I keep emphasizing paid because it's really important, and it's something that we fought for. It's understanding, again, the cultural competency piece. If we really want to connect and engage these young adults, one of the things that means the most at this point is having a job. So we would like to say, but the focus should just be wanting to be outdoors and these beautiful national treasures. Yes, after I have a job and I don't have to think about the basic necessities, I could then start thinking about the beauty that surrounds me and what I can do to protect it. So that's something that we really stress with our YCC program. The HBCY is one of our flagship programs that we do with the National Park Service. And basically, the HBCY stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities Initiative. And that's where it started in 2012 with 9 students, and it has grown to 18 interns going to 12 sites across the country. And what we do is we link HBCUs, black colleges, to nearby AAEF or national park sites that have significant African-American culture and history there. And we bring the two together, and it's really been successful and very profound, because a lot of the sites that are surrounding these institutions have never really engaged the students, or vice versa. So you find in a lot of times, like Tuskegee Museum and Selma to Montgomery to Lincoln University, Spelman, Howard, all these different universities have nearby park sites, and they have never really interacted with the students, and they're asking us, what can we do to engage them? So that's precisely what we've done under the leadership of the youth program manager at the National Park Service, George McDonald. This program started 3 years ago, and it's really growing and something that sites all over the country are wanting to do. And here's another project that we did back in 2009 called the Green Project, where we took 16 at-risk, diverse young adults from inner city Denver, and then basically brought them we provided them with training and certified them as well. And we brought them to these 10 national park sites, and they did the retrofitting of the visitor centers in different buildings, saving the national park site quite a bit of money. It was a very successful program. The great thing about it was over a period of 18 months. So it wasn't a one-off experience for them, because sometimes, and this is my opinion, within our organization, we're really looking for opportunities that are a little longer than one-offs, or a one-day experience, or because I feel it's a little cruel. It's great to expose them, but when they have to go back into their environment with no real pathway out, then that was a wonderful experience, but we need it to be a little bit more than that, and that's something that I'm actively working on doing. And I just wanted to kind of highlight the fact that to date, so we've had this cooperative agreement now for 5 years. And we're working, as I said, with the Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife, EPA, as well as National Park Service. To date, we have placed over 200 interns and paid opportunities on federal lands across the country. In addition to that, about 5% of them have gone on and have been placed permanently at these different positions through PLC and haven't accumulated enough hours. So we know it works. The thing is, they need to really, once they see these opportunities that are out there, then they're like hooked. They're like, how can this be my career? How could this be my pathway? And I could even say that I went the lawyer route. I really wasn't exposed to a lot of this as a child in terms of a career pathway. Had I been, perhaps I would not have chose that path. So that's something that's really important for me, is to expose these young adults to the career pathways. And by the way, it happens to be something that we all need, because we know those statistics. The other thing, and I'll start wrapping up, is our Atlanta Youth Corps. So we realized that what we were doing on a national scale through our Youth Conservation Corps in Atlanta, there was such a need to do something very similar. We didn't have a youth corps in the city of Atlanta. So we have all of these young adults, particularly African-American male and female, and we have 350 parks and green spaces that are severely under-maintained and that are neglected due to budget reasons. And, up close to 45% of the African-American youth are in need of jobs. I was like, duh, let's put it together, So that's something that we're working on, and it's going quite well. And we have crews of six-member crews, and they're working on many projects. But then we do have a fifth day. They work on projects from Monday through Thursday, and on that fifth day, they're learning soft skills like financial literacy, getting their GED if they need it, cultural awareness, and so forth. And I kind of talked about that. They receive training. So she's one of my sheroes for many reasons. I mean, she is, this pioneer female astronaut, and I love her quote, "You can't be what you can't see," because it's so critical to give these young people visuals. They have to see themselves in these career pathways. So whatever we can do, whether it's hiring the front line, as Carlos said, as we have to put people in these positions. We have to collaborate with organizations that are doing this work on the ground. It really isn't that hard. I know someone asked the question of how do we, there's this mandate to put diverse young adults or to employ more diverse people. There are so many organizations that are doing this kind of work, doing the kind of work that we do in terms of providing these young adults that are interested in these fields with these pathways and internships and fellowships. So I would say the answer is to collaborate. Don't feel you have to do it alone. So we have great projects, and also call on the corporate partners. So we have REI and Coleman and all these different corporations, Aramark, that are partnering with us, and they're like, you guys are on the ground, you know how to do that part. We'd like to be involved somehow, but we can provide you with resources. The federal partners, so everybody plays their part, and I think that that's how we're going to be able to move forward in a meaningful way. Thank you.
That's very interesting and inspiring, and thanks very much for joining us. Your discussion about hair and bugs, though, really stuck with me. I've been married to my wife more than 20 years, and I love going outdoors, and I said, let's go camping. And I